Hi, my name is Matt Meyer, and I'm going to be talking about classroom management. My beliefs about classroom management are that I believe in a structured classroom. I believe that there should be routine, and I believe that kids like routine because that's what I've seen in the classrooms that I've worked in. When that routine is interrupted, kids can be thrown off in the classroom and come off the rails. It can be very hard for the students to get back on track when the routine's broken, and it's important to remember that the routine will be broken from time to time. There could be a fire drill or an assembly, so it's important to have the kids know the routine ahead of time and to post when those routines are going to be interrupted so they know that at this time this is happening, and a fire alarm just won't go off over their heads and panic ensues and the classroom's interrupted and the day is just ruined because of that. Oops. All right, rules. I think that rules are also very important for the classroom, and I believe that rules should be not just made up by the teacher, but by the students as well. Just because rules may be different for different kids. Not everyone has the same home rules. So it's important for these kids to come together and to build a sense of community in their classroom by deciding what the appropriate rules should be in the classroom. Um, Also, this is also part of the routine where if maybe a rule is being broken and kids are being off task, there can be a bell, like a bellhop bell, that is hit that gets the kids' attention. They know when they hear that bell, this is happening. They should stop doing what they're doing. In one of the classes that I'm working in, we have a series of claps that the teacher will do, and the kids know once they hear that they need to respond with the same clap and to pay attention to what is going to be happening at the front of the classroom. Rewards and incentives I think are great in classroom. In one of the classrooms I'm working in, we've got tickets for books. Every book that a kid reads, they get a ticket, and then once in a while that ticket can be placed in a basket and they can have that ticket drawn for a prize. And it's just amazing to see how many tickets some of these kids have and how many books they've accumulated, because reading is great and it's important for them to get a feel for that ahead of time. Another great thing that I found in the class that I'm working in is the Classroom Dojo app. It's a behavioral management app where you get a positive and negative dojo for doing positive and negative behaviors. So if you turn in your assignment, you get on time, you get a positive dojo. And if you turn it in late, you get a negative one. If you are on task, you get a positive, and if you are off task, you get a negative, and so on and so forth. It's a really cool app that you can use in the classroom, and I plan on using it or something similar in my future classroom. Handling misbehaviors. One of the articles that we read for this class was about being direct with students. One of the big things that I got out of it was not be sarcastic with students, because even though the sarcasm that you put out there towards a student might be seen as funny in the eyes of other students, and they might get a kick out of it, and they might think that you're a cool teacher, and they might like you a little bit more, that one kid that you're putting the sarcasm on might not see it that way. They might think that you're being mean, and no student should ever think that their teacher is being deliberately mean to them. So I feel like that's just a no-brainer at this point after reading that article, that that should be something that you try to avoid completely in the classroom. Also, you shouldn't say, "I like how Timmy's sitting in his chair," towards Henry, who might be rocking back and forth on his chair, to try to get Henry to sit in his chair correctly, all four legs on the ground or whatever. Because when Henry hears that you like how Timmy's sitting, he might not care how Timmy's sitting. He might not feel like that's directed towards him, and the point of being direct with students is having them know that you are talking to them about an issue. One other thing that I found really interesting was brain breaks. I liked the concept of that, maybe taking some time, getting the kids off track so they can kind of get rid of some of that energy and then come back and get on track again. And then again, the negative dojos is a good way of dealing out those, or getting rid of those misbehaviors, because if you give one kid a negative dojo for doing something, the other kids might think twice a little bit about doing it, and they do from what I've seen. Communicating with parents is always very important, and I think that it should be done throughout the year. You should do it before the school year starts to get the parents in the right mindset. They should do it after the first day so parents are with it with their kids, and they should be doing it throughout the school year in like a weekly newsletter so parents know, okay, my kid's doing this, they should have this at home, because I work with kids that come back to school and they don't have their work done. And if there was a newsletter going out, maybe the parents would say, all right, where's this? Let's do this. It says you have this to do. All right, one of the articles that we read was about the first few weeks of school. And in the first week of school, there's three main things that should be established for the routine. The first one was building a sense of group, which I've kind of already talked about. And that involves greetings and morning activities, announcements, and news. We do that in one of the classrooms that I'm in, and it helps the students get to know each other. It helps the students hear about what they'll be doing throughout the day. Another strategy was establishing rules, which I've already talked about, that the kids and the teachers should be working together to establish these rules. And the teacher should really be the one modeling these behaviors so that their kids know I should be acting like my teacher is acting like right now. And another cool thing, or another cool strategy that was mentioned, was guided discovery, and that's just having the rules posted so they can be seen at all times. They have no reason to forget the rules because they're right up there on the board. Maybe they're in different locations around the room on every wall, so there's no reason to not know what's going on. Another article we read was The Power of Words, and that was about watching what you say, because the language that you use shapes a student. It talked about being direct with them, and again, like I said, with no sarcasm. The things that you say affect the kids, affect how they feel about you, and when you do something negative towards them, they will respond negatively towards you. And then my last slide is about inclusion in the classroom and having an inclusive classroom. One thing that I've discovered is the idea of having a comfortability classroom survey, and that's basically just a survey that the kids can take, and so you can see how comfortable they are in different situations and during different things in the class. If they're comfortable sitting in this position, they're comfortable with what they're talking about in class, and I thought that was a cool idea to do with kids. The classroom organization that you have has to do with inclusion as well, because if you have your desks close together, someone in a wheelchair might not be able to get through. If you have things up too high, a shorter kid might not be able to reach up there and grab the materials that they need to complete their project or whatever. So it's important to think about all these things as you're building your classroom, so you're able to include everyone in every activity that you do. And then the last thing is just diversity. I came from a not very diverse area, but I know that there are a lot more diverse areas in the world, and I think it's an important thing that different groups of people are taught about different groups of people, so that we're not just accustomed to what we see around us every day, and so when we experience new things, we know how to experience them, and it's important to learn that early so we can carry that with us and continue to learn from it and those experiences.